Welcome back to another episode of Catholic Culture and Faith. We're going to be discussing the basics of moral and cardinal virtues today, and we'll continue on how they interact together in the future. Before we go any further, what does the word virtue mean and where does it come from? Virtue is a word formed from the Latin word virtus, which means power, strength, valor, or manliness. Well, what is a virtue? First of all, we must note that virtues are qualities and traits which lead a person to do good. The definition of a virtue is to habitually and to have firm disposition to do good. What does that even mean? Well, habitually means something that has become habit or a routine, and firm disposition, in other words, is a firm determination to make a good decision and to do good. Why are the virtues so important? Well, virtues allow persons not only to perform good acts, but to give the best of himself. The virtuous person tends towards the good with all his sensory and spiritual powers. He pushes the good and chooses it in a concrete action. According to Philippians, chapter 4, verse 8, in conclusion, my friends, fill your minds with those things that are good and that deserve praise, things that are true, noble, right, pure, loving, and honorable. Now that we have a basic understanding of virtues, let's move on to what the moral virtues are. The moral virtues are acquired by human effort. They are the fruits and seeds of morality. They're good acts. They dispose all the power of human being for communion with divine love. A moral virtue grows through education, deliberate acts, and perseverance in struggle, and divine grace that elevates them. The moral cardinal virtues are the virtues that all other virtues depend on, as a door depends on its hinges. And indeed, the name cardinal virtue means hinged virtue, for the Latin cardinus means hinges. There is 4 moral cardinal virtues, which are prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. Prudence. Prudence is the virtue that disposes practical reasoning to discern our true good in every circumstance, and to choose the right means of achieving it. The prudent man looks where he is going. Keep sane and sober for your prayers. Prudence is the right reason in action, writes St. Thomas. It's not to be confused with timidity or fear, nor with duplicity or dissimulation. It's called the chariot of virtues. It guides the other virtues by setting rules and measures. It is prudence that immediately guides the judgment of conscience. The prudent man determines and directs his conduct in accordance with this judgment. With the help of this virtue, we apply moral principles to particular cases without error and overcome doubts about the good to achieve and the evil to avoid. What does all that mean? Prudence is considered the chariot of all virtues and is the main hinge which guides all other virtues. It guides us for the mere fact that prudence has to do with deciding what is right and what is wrong, what is of light and what is of darkness. We need to determine in every circumstance which leads us closer to God, to do what's best according to our conscience, and to make right decisions. We have to remember that these are learned behaviors and need to be taught. Yes, God still guides us, but if we were never taught Catholic teachings to do what is right and wrong, according to the Church, natural law, and legal law, how can you make a right decision? This is a great point to show what you need to teach your children from a young age, what is right and what is wrong in all circumstances, whether you're involved or not. It will teach them prudence and help them to move forward in a righteous life. Justice. Justice is the moral virtue that consists in the constant and the firm will to give their due to God and neighbor. Justice towards God is called the virtue of religion. Justice towards man disposes one to respect the rights of each and to establish in human relationships the harmony that promotes equity and with regard to persons and to the common good. The just man often mentioned in the sacred scripture is distinguished by habitual right thinking and the uprightness of his conduct towards his neighbor. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. Masters, treat your slaves justly and fairly. Know that you also have a master in heaven. What does all this mean? A basic understanding of the cardinal virtue of justice is to give what is due to God and neighbor. A simple version of what the virtue of religion is? The basic thought is to give God what is due to God. For example, praise, thanksgiving, adoration, going to Mass, prayer. These are all things that are due to God. One thing that we have to remember that is due to our neighbor and God is love. We are called to love our neighbors ourselves for the love of God. As Romans chapter 13, verse 7 says, "Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe them taxes, pay them taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor." Fortitude. Fortitude is the moral virtue that ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in the pursuit of the good. It strengthens the resolve to resist temptations and to overcome obstacles in the moral life. The virtue of fortitude enables one to conquer fear, even fear of death, and to face trials and persecutions. It disposes one even to renounce and sacrifice his life in defense of a just cause. "The Lord is my strength and my song. In the world you have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Fortitude. Fortitude is the moral virtue that ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in the pursuit of the good. It strengthens the resolve to resist temptations and to overcome obstacles in the moral life. The virtue of fortitude enables one to conquer fear, even fear of death, and to face trials and persecutions. It disposes one to renounce and even sacrifice his life in defense of a just cause. "The Lord is my strength and my song. In the world you have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." What is fortitude? Fortitude is basically courage. Fortitude deals with self-control of self and of rational and irrational fears for whatever circumstance they may present themselves. What could be a rational fear that this could help me overcome? A good example of a rational fear would be reading scripture in front of the church. Many people have serious phobias of doing this. So by praying and fighting this temptation to skip church or run away, you can overcome it. An irrational fear would be standing up for your beliefs, even when you're outnumbered, or could result in even personal injuries. Standing for what you believe in and not rejecting Christ is having fortitude. Fortitude or courage can be taught from a young age. If you teach your children to have faith in God and pray in their trials and tribulations, they will learn to develop fortitude and overcome all obstacles and fears in life. We all need to follow what is right and just. Instead of caving into darkness and what is easy, we must stand tall and stand strong against all temptations. What is against God and the church? Temperance. Temperance is the moral virtue that moderates the attraction of pleasures and provides a balance in the use of created goods. It ensures the will's mastery over instincts and keeps desires within the limits of what is honorable. The temperate person directs the sensitive appetites toward what is good and maintains a healthy discretion. Do not follow your inclinations and strength. Walk accordingly to the desires of your heart. Temperance is often praised in the Old Testament. Do not follow your base desires, but restrain your appetites. In the New Testament, it is called moderation or sobriety. We ought to live sober, upright, and godly lives in this world. What does all this mean? The virtue is all about self-restraint. It's about restraining oneself to what is considered honorable. It's all about restraining the usage of what you consume, whether it's from food or drinks and sexual pleasures. If we're all going to live a right and just life and focus on growing as a person and moving towards heaven, we must learn this word, moderation. Nothing is good in excess. When things are consumed or used in excess, something else in your life is being neglected. Look at it this way. If all you're concerned about is eating and cooking, you most likely are neglecting your other duties, whatever they may be. We must all balance the duties and responsibilities that we have and find that healthy balance that we need. We must take the time to teach our children what is a healthy balance and how do they do this. And when they start to mature, we must also take the time to teach them healthy sexual balance. Yes, I know it's a tough subject, but they will thank you later in life. I have a short little blurb here I'd like to read that ties all the cardinal virtues together. Please enjoy. To live well is nothing other than to love God with all one's heart, with all one's soul, and with all one's effort. From this it comes about that love is kept whole and uncorrupt through temperance. No misfortunes can disturb it, and this is fortitude. It obeys only God, and this is justice, and is careful in discerning things, so as not to surprise by deceit or trickery, and this is prudence. From all of us here at Catholic Culture and Faith, stay strong, stay faithful, stay united. Keep up the good work.